And Jesus loves us.
What's wrong with my outfit?
Nothing. Do you have a white top? Like a white cardigan? Literally.
For you to get
What?
a white cardigan. Come buy our potatoes and our pickled carrots. I thought it looked pretty.
That's good.
As a young man, heard the sky's the limit. First thing first, I'ma break through the ceiling. One life jam, but it feels infinite. One life damn, then I better go get it. Start at the bed in my suede.
This podcast is being brought to you by the Reyes Group at IA Private Wealth. That is made up of myself, John Reyes, a wealth advisor, and Jillian Seguin, an associate wealth advisor.
Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to a Bearable conversation with myself, Jillian Seguin, associate wealth advisor at Reyes Group.
And I am John Reyes, a wealth advisor at Reyes Group.
At 3, 2, 1.
IA Private Wealth.
Nailed it.
Nailed it. Good.
So today, I've turned our friends to face John because this podcast might get a little unbearable, if you know what I mean. Today we are going to discuss or address some of those wonderful commercials that we're all privy to. One of them was, "Are you still using Dad's Guy?" And addressing the self-directed, perhaps the under spotlights benefit, or under spotlighted benefits of actually having an advisor and doing it on your own.
Look, if you were in the room, you would feel a lot of tension in terms of just my energy. If there's anything that I've been told from the people around me, Jill, whether it's Jill, who's been around me the longest in the business world here, whether it's my own family, is that I carry a lot of energy, and I know that. And so in getting prepared for this podcast, I really had to talk to myself about what is it that's really bothering me in terms of why I feel like I got to take up some arms against what I'm going to call the do-it-yourself financial community, because that's the only thing I can attribute it to. And let me be very clear that this is not an attack or a comment on individual do-it-yourself investors, because honestly, that's not who my concerns are or who I'm taking the fight up with. I'm talking about more of the mega platforms that seem to have bottomless pits of money to be able to produce these commercials. And so what I'm going to address is understanding a little bit about who I am and how I grew up, and understand where this is coming from, so that you can get a fonder appreciation of why I'm adamant about this. So the best thing that I can do is to give you some examples about my growing up in Northeast Calgary, which is where I grew up. Although there's a lot of stories that I can share and chuckle and have a good laugh over about that part of my time in my life, I think what I've gathered as I've grown up and I've become an adult and I've looked at it is it's the lessons that I've learned. It's the things that I stand up for. It's the things that have made me who I am. I have now come to accept that I'm a righteous individual. And being a righteous individual can land you on either side of an argument at times. But in this particular situation, I think it's going to be very important that you understand a few things about Righteous Johnny. One, I can't stand bullies. Couldn't stand them when I was a kid. I can't stand them now. And I'm not afraid to have difficult conversations. That's something that has been ingrained in me from when I was little. I would challenge authority, I would challenge the people around me, and I would challenge situations when especially I felt weren't right. And that is what I'm going to do today. When a series of commercials started, you referenced it, which is the "Are you still using Dad's Guy?" I will admit that I found them quite cute, gimmicky, and I found that it was something that I could look at and not actually feel any type of threat to the type of industry that I'm in, which is full service advisory along with Jill. And I thought it was, hey, it comes back to my concept of what I call a cup of coffee. So what I what I mean by a cup of coffee is that there is a cup of coffee for every single person. If you think about it, 7-Eleven sells a cup of coffee, probably 99 cents to $2. Tim Hortons sells a coffee for 99 cents to $2. You walk downtown and go to DeVille, great coffee by the way, you're getting up there now. You go to Starbucks, you're pushing $5, $6, $7. You go to some of these really, really nice, swanky coffee places just up the road here at 17th, and guess what? Every single one of them sells coffee. And every single one of them has a good, loyal customer base. And neither one of them trips over each other to start telling them that the other coffee isn't good. So that leads to my second point of what I've learned about growing up. I know that what we do at Reyes Group has a tremendous amount of value. I know that our service strategy success platform, it works because we have clients. And no matter how many times I get pulled into the ring from clients that might be upset with their previous advisors or maybe not happy with the way things are going, you will never, ever hear me knock another advisor within my network, within my industry, because that would tell you more about my character than it would about anything else. So what I'll focus on and what Jill focuses on, because she has the equal amount of passion as I do, is we're going to tell you how great we are and why we are good at what we do and why we focus on the things that we do in order to improve people and their situations following our service strategy success. So again, when I think about these commercials, those commercials were pretty cute. But then they started to double down. And when they doubled down, what I mean by that is the latest commercials have a somewhat B-rated actor sitting up and pretending to be a professor in a lecture hall, drawing a wonderful little graph about what happens in terms of your money over a 30-year period of time if you were to pay fees. And what he does is he walks up and he writes a line and he says, if you didn't pay fees compounded over this amount of time, you'd have this much money. And if you didn't pay, and if you did pay fees, your money would be this. And it has a very large delta. And here's the situation. That's not wrong. None of that is wrong. Because in mathematical terms, 1 + 1 = 2. There is no other answer. 3 + 5 = 8. There is no other answer. Because that is a mathematical equation. What bothers me and what gives me a moment for pause and what has really made me animated is that does not take into consideration the emotional attachment that people have with their money. It does not take into consideration the multiple life events that can occur in any one given situation. It does not account for people dealing with aging parents and transfers of wealth or
Marital
breakdown, or a client of ours who's holding his wife's hand at a hospital during cancer treatment.
Or a child with a disability. At no point do these commercials ever reference what happens when that do-it-yourself investor ages. That is what is a central missing component from this. And for me, everybody has a right to market and to go out and to build business. That is the entrepreneurial way. But you should shake your head if you're going to be doing it and misinforming the public about the importance of all the other factors that have nothing to do with the linear equation, that have nothing to do with mathematics. And shame on that do-it-yourself financial community for being and bringing that to our table, because you are now trying to influence a large demographic of, unfortunately, financially learning individuals. I stopped short because I'm not going to say these people are not educated. A lot of these people are engineers, they're young doctors, they're teachers, they're accountants, they're people that have a tremendous amount of responsibility in our world, but I'm going to tell you, for the most part, aren't overly financially savvy. For those of us that have kids, if you think about the curriculum that's taught in school, on average, generally, there are two topics that schools don't want to touch.
money, and often is the case the big driver, and they don't want to talk about politics in the terms of pushing an agenda. And those two things have to be learned at home. But what if you're a child of two immigrant parents who just landed in this country, and Walmart's happy to give you a credit card, or another institution is happy to extend you a line of credit? Well, guess what? Until you learn through that experience, that becomes your financial experience. We have a duty as a financial services industry to educate the people around us. I'm reading a book right now that I just started, and I found it extremely moving, in that they talked about a janitor who worked as a gas attendant, who was mopping floors at a high school, who was a philanthropist, and very simple, uneducated individual. And upon his death, he left an $8 million net worth. Gave $2 million to his kids, and he gave another $4 million to various charities. The next paragraph was about an MBA, Harvard graduate, CEO that was a massive contributor to a major US financial company, and during the exact same period of time decided that he needed to renovate his 18,000 square foot home, and did it right before 2008, right before the crash, and filed bankruptcy 9 months later. Harvard graduate, CEO of a company, guy pushing floors, and yet you have two different outcomes. So this isn't a rant because I'm upset with a commercial. I'm upset because we had a pair of older clients come into our office last week. And these clients had the audacity, and I'm using that word not lightly, to sit across from us and say, why would I pay your fees if I can do trades at $9.99? And when I find that I'm ready to use your services, that's when I'll come to you. And I looked at Jill, and what you need to know about me is I've had a lot of training over the years at the hands of Jill to be a little bit more soft-handed in my approach and not swear as much as I do. I think for a moment you probably got nervous about how it was going to respond. But I just said to this fellow, very calmly and as a matter of fact, I said, because the part that you're leaving out is you're already into your 60s, 70s. By the time you think that you need this, it's already going to be too late. You might even not know. And you honestly think that Jill and I will take on the liability and the responsibility of helping you now after you've decided that, oh, by the way, this side of the floor actually has value? So I have a lot of other things here that I've written, but the reality is, when I thought about what was it that was really bugging me, what was firing me up, and I think I've said it. There is a collective financial obligation and responsibility, whether you are a company that is promoting discounted brokerage services or whether you're a full service advisor, to ensure that we collectively come together to educate clients. And don't get me wrong, I'm not without my flaws, right? There's a lot of disclaimers and stuff I really don't want to have to deal with, so I'm going to limit it. But I'm not perfect. But I can assure you of this, I make mistakes, and I've made mistakes, but I learn from those mistakes. And the learnings from those mistakes have helped me and Jill, and by extension our team of 5, remember that our core focus is always going to be on delivering the best service that we can to our clients in a transparent method. And it had to happen, unfortunately, some poor experiences, which I still live with and they still bother me, but that I've learned from. And to watch some B-rated actor step up on a commercial, like that actor alone should be shaking his head to think that that's a benefit of anything. So, anyways, I'll stop. I haven't even let you speak because I just went right into it, and I don't even know what I said for most of that. But I'll just.
I don't know how to follow that, but obviously I'm aligned with everything you said, and I think that you are the correct person in our relationship to deliver it because you do have the passion. I feel like I'm very black and white. I'm not as emotionally driven or transparent, and I think you said it really, really well. I hope that people who have heard that appreciate where we're coming from, and we're not alone in it. For whatever reason, our side of the table has not put money towards sort of the counter argument in commercials. You don't see many other commercials about what we do, but I think the industry speaks for itself. I know myself, my grandfather was a stockbroker, and that's what he was called, a stockbroker. And then the industry evolved to investment advisors, and now it's evolved more so to what we are, wealth managers. And if you're doing it yourself, you're basically a stockbroker. That's what they did. They picked stocks and they hopefully amassed a net worth for you. But just by virtue of those titles, now being a wealth manager, we are not stock pickers. We are not looking to pick the next best thing, or at least that's not what we do. We are there to take care of you and your family. And that is such a bigger element beyond just being able to click a mouse and make money on a trade and feel good about it. And that's really what is not being shown in those commercials. The other thing I would say is, those commercials talk about fees. $9.99, I think it was $9.95 or whatever, $12 a trade, some of them are, versus what we offer. But it doesn't talk about the compliance and regulatory oversight that we have to justify our fees. We can't just pick a commission really off a trade anymore, like you do when you're doing it yourself. We have to justify that we know the products that we are recommending for our clients, that we are offering advice to clients that might be in a platform that doesn't pay a commission. We can't just set it and forget it and clip a fee off of your account. Like, there's so much that is not disclosed in these commercials that really negate the value, as you've said, the value that we have or that we offer. And so I would encourage people not so much just to read into it, but talk to somebody in the industry and what it is we offer, and do your own comparison. And sorry, the last thing I just wanted to say was the emotional component that you talk about is really the greed and fear associated with the markets. That's what drives our decisions. And being able to respond versus react, which we've talked a lot about, is driven by emotion. And so you might have not paid fees and assumed a compounding return, but over the last 2 decades, we've had a terrorist attack on U.S. soil. We've had we just went through a global pandemic. We had the collapse of the financial sector in the U.S. And we've had interesting presidencies and political situations. And if you were at all emotional or scared and reacted during any of those events, your line or your wealth would not have amassed or charted the way that gentleman on that commercial was portraying it.
Look, at the end of the day, life is not a financial equation. It just isn't. There are real emotions that are related to the decisions that you make. There are blips in the timeline, births, deaths, jobs, loss, gain, that are not being factored in. And that, for me, is a big, big disservice to the investment community. And for me, look, at the end of the day, consumers have the right to fight for their best pricing. Go after it. Have a constructive conversation with your advisor. Because at the end of the day, if you do not feel like you have a value proposition, then as I've just said, there's a cup of coffee for everyone. You don't like what you're getting at Starbucks? Go try DeVille. You don't like what DeVille is because you lost your job? You can still get a cup of Joe at Safeway or, at 7-Eleven. Like, there is a cup of coffee for everyone. And it's fine to be able to go and market. But I'm going to say this again. Life is not a mathematical equation. It is not a linear graph. And if you continue to market that way, don't be surprised as that clientele ages and they start to realize the other important components if you're going to be dealing with a other type of situation with those same types of clients. So before I get even more passionate and say things that I can start getting liable for, I'm just going to stop there.
And you're going to say, thank you.
Thank you very much for joining this wonderfully energetic conversation with John Reyes and Jillian Seguin, and this was an unbearable?
No, a bearable.
Oh, sorry, a bearable conversation.
As a young man, heard the sky's the limit. First thing first, I'ma break through the ceiling. One life jam, but it feels infinite. One life jam.
This information has been prepared by John Reyes, Wealth Advisor, and Jillian Seguin, Associate Wealth Advisor, who are part of Reyes Group at IA Private Wealth, and does not necessarily reflect the opinion of IA Private Wealth. The information contained in this podcast comes from sources we believe reliable, but we cannot guarantee its accuracy or reliability. The opinions expressed are based on an analysis and interpretation dating from the date of publication and are subject to change without notice. Furthermore, they do not constitute an offer or solicitation to buy or sell any of the securities mentioned. The information contained herein may not apply to all types of investors. IA Private Wealth Incorporated is a member of the Canadian Investor Protection Fund and the Investment Industry Regulatory Organization of Canada. IA Private Wealth is a trademark and a business name under which IA Private Wealth Inc. operates. The podcast is a general discussion of certain issues intended as a general information only and should not be relied upon as tax or legal advice. Please obtain professional advice in the context of your particular circumstance. Only products and services offered through IA Private Wealth Inc. are covered by the Canadian Investor Protection Fund.
Who the hell is James Brown? Come here, we talking about Mr. Dynamite.